to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. Our guests today are from Lancaster Fire Department, KJ Watts, a Public Information Officer, and Chief David Ward. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here today. I know that you guys are busy, a lot of stuff going on, and we just appreciate everything you do. I want to say it up front. Everybody, first responders, and what you guys do for the city, and we appreciate it very much.
Thank you for the support.
Yeah.
The couple things going on. You're in a new position.
I am. Yes, absolutely. It's a newly created position about a month ago,
Yes,
right
sir.
before the turn of the year. It's a supervisory position over all of our EMS operations, emergency medical services. So before this, we didn't really have a supervisor over top of that. The chief kind of ran it all, and we identified a need. We have a lot of EMS runs every year, and it's kind of a big deal. So we put a position in there, and I was lucky to be the one.
And how long have you been with the department?
I'm starting my 19th year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chief, you've been there?
I've been there. I'm working on 29.
Wow.
I know. And in fact, I sent a card the other day to an older guy. I remember like it was yesterday. He took 15 of us were hired at one time, and he took us out back of Engine House 3, and he said, "Now, boys," he said, "this is going to go quick." And he told us a few things we needed to do as we got ready, and sure enough, so I wrote him a little card, and I said, "Guess what? 25 years, you know, it's gone by already."
Wow,
Flies
that's
by.
a lot. Let's talk about EMS. Number of runs. I know that there's, you have, I believe, legislation in for a new medic also. And
Oh, we do. You know, people ask us how the department's going, and I can say we're busier than ever. We just continually go up about 3 or 4% a year on our runs. This year we're a little higher than traditionally on the EMS side. We were about 4.5% higher. Fire runs were almost 5% higher. We broke 2,000 fire runs this year, and about almost 7,700 medic runs. So
wow,
we just keep going. It's 85% of our business.
medic runs.
Right.
So,
So yes, so to answer your question, we have some medics, and council and city administration has been fantastic to allow us to try and replace a medic unit about every 2 or 3 years. So
What's the cost of a medic unit? I mean, when I was on council, it was astronomical then. So
at $256,000 for this one.
holy smoke!
Right, and then we have a medic cot, and this cot really saves our backs. I mean, it's a one-finger operation. It costs $40,000. So you're looking at, by the time you get the cot and the medic and everything, $300,000.
Wow, and how long will that last?
We like to get about 10 years out of this, 8 to
Okay.
10. Now, it won't be in frontline service that whole time.
Sure.
But we try and we have been. In fact, the one we get rid of will either be an 05 that doesn't have all the emissions things that we have now, or the 08, which has all the emission systems. So,
What's the lead time to get a new medic
120 days after we
after you purchase?
yeah, after the purchase order.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
You talked about that medic runs make up most of the activity. Talk a little bit about your experiences, even in the last 5 years, with all the drugs and all the things that you guys go through.
Cap, why don't you?
It's getting to be overwhelming. I mean, the addiction part of things and the impact that we see. You know, 5 years ago I was on the medic. Since then I've promoted up and don't ride the medic much. But you know, probably 5, 6 years ago, maybe we had 1 or 2 overdoses every week or so. But we're getting them daily, sometimes multiple times a day. So it's definitely impacting our service and the ability to go out and treat folks. I think FMC, the hospital, and some other community partners are doing a great job trying to get the Narcan out there on the streets
You might
to
want to
help
explain
people.
what that is.
Yeah, Narcan is a medication that I think anybody can go get it at a pharmacy to have the kit. I think it's called Project Dawn, the hospital uses to educate people on how to administer that to an overdose patient. But it's a nasal spray that has the drug in it that basically blocks the opiate receptors and reverses any kind of overdose that would happen as a result of heroin or something like that. So we use Narcan on the truck. We typically either give it intranasally or through an IV.
Right.
And then the patient wakes up, we take him to the hospital, and that's kind of our life with them is just a few minutes of where they're awake. We talk to them, give them to the hospital, and then the hospital takes care of them after that, and hopefully they get them on a road to recovery.
You do a lot of public relations with kids and schools?
Yeah, we try. I mean, the Lancaster Police Department's great with their DARE program. I mean, that's been around for decades, and they try to get in front of kids and teach them the right thing. But, you know, I tell you that, I mean, the addiction problem is, it crosses all socioeconomic backgrounds, and it's not just, you know, a poor person problem, it's an everybody problem, and you just kind of got to hope that you have a good family unit, you hope you have good surroundings to try to get you out, or just kind of steer you the right way.
You know, I can remember back, it seems like 15 or 20 years ago, when the medical field started saying that the hospitals, EMS, wasn't treating pain. And so you know, they really made an effort to start that treating the pain. And now it seems like maybe we overtreat. And that's where a person, you may have been a good person throughout you never did any drugs, but when you have an injury, let's say you have a rotator cuff surgery, and you start taking the pain pills, and you get used to that, and then it progresses to a different level, and you can't get the pain pills, then you might go to, you know, more heroin or Oxycontin. That's how it used to be, where you'd have the pain pills, and the pain pills were so expensive, you moved to the Oxycontin, and then you could find something cheaper. So it's bad.
So as this has evolved and you guys have become more aware of the situation, what advice, talk to parents? What do you tell parents? What do you tell other kids that, you know, this is what's happening? I mean, they would listen to you before they'd listen to a lot of other people.
Right. One of the things I think I've seen is that parents of kids that get into this enable them a little bit too much. You know, I mean, I think we're maybe a little softer society than we were decades ago, and the way that we treat our kids, and I don't think we're engaging in what they do enough necessarily. So when all of a sudden we find, you know, one of our kids that are addicted to something, it's like, what happened? But you haven't been taking their phone and looking at their social media. You haven't been engaged with them and knowing where they're at all times, whether it's through a GPS location app or whatever. But engaging, and, you know, don't be their friend, be their parent.
Yeah, a little tough love.
All right.
And you know, it's not just those kids; it's the young adults. It's 20s and 30s and 40s.
Absolutely.
They are overdosing. They're dying all day long, all day.
It's just we've talked about this in working in different areas, that just in general, what's happening, what's going on, and I know that there's only so much that you guys can do.
Right.
And that, you know, it does come back to the family.
Right.
What are we going to do? How are we going to do this? So.
Franklin County, and I was talking to the cap this morning, I read an article in the Dispatch where they are trying to set up this facility, and I don't remember the number of beds, but when EMS gets there, instead of maybe taking them, if they're stable and there's no risk for them to, you know, crash after the Narcan wears off, and if they are willing, which is a big step in itself, to take these people not to the ER, but directly to almost like a rehab facility. Yeah, and try and get them the help right away. Don't send them to the ER and then have them come out and try and get into recovery. Take them right then. So it's at Maryhaven. It's going to be interesting to see how that works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How many medics do we have on the force? I mean,
actual paramedics.
Yeah,
We operate 3 frontline paramedic units, and each one is staffed with 3 people, and the department has roughly 54.
Yeah, the majority are medics, or have been medics.
Yeah.
Right now we have 43 paid medics, but I would say, like the cap said, probably 50, 55.
right.
So I don't ride the medic, but I'm still a paramedic.
Right.
So
talk about training. What's the training to become a paramedic?
So to train to become a paramedic all over, I would say it takes about a year. It's college level class. You go through, have to do a lot of rotations in ER clinicals, things like that. So it's a pretty long-term class. Then you take the state certification exam. Then once you get your paramedic card, there's definitely ongoing training. So there's a 3-year cycle to that where you have to do continuing education, and it's like 80 to 90 hours of continuing education every 3 years. So there's a lot of training, and at the fire department, we do a great job supplying or providing education for our members so they can get it right there at work.
And how many paramedic runs did you have, did you say?
Well, last year we had almost 7,700, just a little bit shy of that.
Wow.
Yeah. When I came on, I think in '89 we were somewhere around 2,000 or so. So since I've been chief in 2012, we've gone up 1,000 already. So it just continually goes up.
It's about 20 runs a day.
20 runs a day. Now, at what point in time do you think, when is this going to stop? I mean, is it something that you're thinking, this is getting out of hand, folks?
There are so many different parts of our system, I think, that impacts that, right? Like your insurance, the Affordable Health Care Act, things like that, and to drive people either to go to the ER versus their primary care physician, the socioeconomic things, the demographic things. There's so many different things that I think impact that, and you try to focus on one and something else happens. And it is a monster of a problem to deal with. I mean, we want people to call 911 if they have an emergency. We're not going to qualify whether that's an emergency to us or not. It's, hey, we want you to call and we'll help you out. But with that comes a lot of runs. And I think as a public service, we have to be responsive to that and see the trends and the growth of EMS runs and try to plan ahead. And I think that, the chief is doing that, is planning ahead for what happens in 4 or 5 years if we see this.
Right.
What happens when 20 runs turns into 30 runs.
Yep,
And
exactly.
we can't make it to places as fast as we want to.
Now, is there a website, or do you have open houses that people can come and visit? Or?
Well, we have our website. The CAP here takes care of our Facebook as well, but we also try to have something in Fire Prevention Week where people can come in and see the firehouse or whatever. But
And I know October is fire safety. We'll have you back in October
Great.
to talk about
Yeah.
all those things. Advice to somebody that wants to become paramedic, firefighter? What made you guys get into it?
Yeah, I'll go first. I went to college. I did the college route. Graduated from OU. Had a degree in business. Worked in the private sector for 3 or 4 years. And I remember I had a conversation. I said, Lord, I'm not enjoying this. And I said, if you can just get me back to Lancaster, I'll be happy. So I saw in the paper they were giving a fire test and a police test. And so I took both. And it was short of, it was in '89 when we were having such difficult financial times.
Yep.
And so the fire chief called me, and then the next day the police department called me, and I went the fire route, and it's been a wonderful career. So anybody that's interested in fire and EMS and helping people, it's a great job.
Who was the fire chief when you
Wilbur
were?
Welch.
Wilbur Welch.
Yeah,
That
so-
was, I was on council from 90 to 96.
Okay.
And Wilbur, and then Jack Roop was there.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And then
And then Steve Campbell.
Steve Campbell.
And Steve
was there.
Sells, and then
And
myself.
Steve Sells and yourself.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's been a great career. And what I like, I'm Fairfield County. I grew up
Yeah.
in Amanda. I go to church in Lancaster, have since my wife and I met 30 years ago. And it's home. So when I was on the medic doing a lot of those runs, you'd go out, and a lot of times you'd know people, and you're involved in the community, and it's home. And I loved it. I still love it. There's not a day that doesn't come in that I think, man, I'm very
luckiest
blessed.
guy-
Luckiest guy in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. KJ, how about you?
My dad was a firefighter here in Lancaster. He was a captain, in fact. So I grew up around Lancaster
Yeah.
Fire Department, right? So a lot of the guys that I worked with, I kind of, or came in and started working with, I knew as a kid. So my dad kind of had blazed the path, and I respected what he did. I went the college route right after high school and played football at a college in at Heidelberg University.
Oh, yeah, Tiffin.
Yeah, Tiffin, yeah. So I enjoyed that, but it kind of just, I didn't get to have the excitement. Came home for a summer, and my dad put me in an EMT basic class, and part of the EMT basic class was to ride on a medic somewhere. So my dad knew somebody from Columbus. I went up there and rode, and it was the closest thing to Friday night football that I've ever experienced.
Really?
Yeah. So the rush you get,
Sure,
and,
yeah,
and so I was like, this
absolutely.
is what I want to do, Dad. And then I did fire school and took the civil service test at Lancaster, and got hired when I was 21.
If this hadn't worked out, what would you be doing now?
I was in industrial sales. I'd probably still be a salesman as well.
I was going to be a lawyer.
Really?
That's what I was trying to do, yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. That's. Do you communicate with other fire departments outside of like Columbus and Circleville, and do you guys hold meetings together?
Yeah, I'm part of the Central Ohio Fire Chiefs, and so once a month we have our meetings, and it really helps because you go out and you discuss what's going on in your department, and most of the people are having the same kind of challenges, whether it be funding or personnel or whatever it might be. So that's a great resource. And he has an interesting side. He probably knows 10 times more people in the fire service than I do. You might.
Well, for years I was involved in our union, our firefighters union, our bargaining unit, and I ended up rising through the ranks there, and I was the district vice president for the state firefighters union. So I basically represented about 52 local fire departments from Central Ohio down to the river and over to Marietta, a bunch of them. So I traveled a lot and met a lot of folks, and I tell you, I mean, and a lot of things I learned out there I brought to Lancaster. I mean, we're not an island to our own, so collaboration's huge in the fire service because we all experience the same things no matter where you're at.
3 to 5 year plan?
You know what? 3 to 5. We do a 5-year plan every year, and we have the capital assets. The fire trucks have been fantastic with. We've got brand new frontline equipment. The medics are fine. Our engine houses are in great shape. The locations are great. And I've told this to Mayor Scheffler and Mayor Smith as well. Looking down, where's our need? And it's more people, first and foremost. With our medic runs, prior to the recession, when we had a little higher staffing, we really didn't need mutual aid. Now it's a very integral part of our operation. Last year we had about 230 times or so we requested help to come in. So we need to have more people. I would love to have a fourth medic on the road and cross-staffed. And what that means is we'd have 3 frontline medics, the central part, the hill, we call it the hill, behind St. Mary's. Then you have the west side medic and then the east side medic. And then that fourth medic would be cross-staffed with our tower, a big bucket truck. That way, I think if we had that kind of staffing, and it would take us going up to about 82. Right now we're at 70. So if we had 82 firefighters, it would almost eliminate all the mutual aid, but it would also allow us to handle the medic runs that we're not getting to.
What's the average retirement age for a firefighter? I mean, you've been there 29, you've been there 19. I mean, do they retire at 25, 30?
You can retire at 25 and age 52 now for new hires.
Correct.
When we came on, you could retire at age 48, but now people can't. So I would say, Mike, most people go to 30, 28 to 30 now, I'm guessing.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Equipment other than trucks and medics that you need, or something new on the market that wasn't there 5 years ago, or something that you guys...
Kind of getting back to that vision.
Yeah.
If we get the staffing up to 82, I'd like to see somehow we have a station in this area near the Fairfield Christian Church, or in this quadrant, to have an engine/medic unit stationed up here. That would be a great thing. First personnel, and secondary, get that new station.
Right. Because River Valley Highland has how many people now in that area, which is covered by...
At least 1,000 houses, at least 1,000 houses, let alone.
Absolutely.
And that's covered by the west side off of 6th Avenue?
Yeah.
Or not 6th Avenue, Fair?
6th and Harrison.
6th and Harrison,
Yes,
there you go.
yeah.
So that's, you know, when you look this, when do you start planning? I mean, are you planning for 2020 now? Or?
You know, I would like to try and get something, my desire would be to get something in front of the public where we could go for a levy. It may not pass. It may take a couple years to pass. I don't know. But this is a 5-year plan, at least, I think.
That's,
it takes about probably $6 million to build a station. Personnel, once they hit top pay, you're looking at probably $1.2 million to add those additional 12 people. So it's sizable. We can't afford it right now, I get that.
So when you build a station, are there federal dollars, state dollars, or is that all local dollars?
It'd be all local. There is used to be when, in the recession, there was and I forget what it was called, a firehouse grant, where the federal government would throw some dollars at you, but I think that's pretty well dried up. So yes, this is all local dollar.
The, not roadblocks, but things that you're facing that, gee, I wish, maybe it's a regulation, or maybe it's something that you guys face that, God, this was just not in our way. We could really do this. KJ's smiling over
you know,
funding, I mean.
Yeah, that's true. You know, that's a good point. You know, and Councilman Stoughton brought this in a recent article about how much we don't get now from the state of Ohio, which we used to. And it's probably $1.5 million from the local government fund. Being a councilman, you may remember that, which we didn't replace. And so it's a testament to all the departments, how well we've operated. That's in the general fund, is that the need for the service has increased, the funding from the state has gone down, and yeah, that's the biggest roadblock. We need to have some kind of a long-term funding structure to help us get some of the services back up.
Right. But there's no assistance for equipment that I mean, like ventilate, anything that you would need to use on an everyday?
Well, every year we apply for the Fire Act grant, which is a federal dollars, and we've been very successful. We've generated about almost $1 million in those kind of things.
Wow.
Fire truck we received our turnout gear and our self-contained breathing apparatus, dryers and washers for our turnout gear, extrication equipment, the Jaws of Life, those kind of things were a lifesaver for us, because at the time, prior to the a fire impact account that Mayor Smith and Terry Vandervoort, when she was the law director, had the vision to try and get this in place, there was no money for us to do that, and everything was so tight. So prior to that, we were able to get the grants from the federal government. But since then, what that fire impact account is anytime you have a new building, new residential building that goes into the city, it's about $2,300 into that fire account. And so we can purchase capital assets. whether it be turnout gear or you know, cot, whatever it might be.
Right.
The medic, they're talking about trying to get that through with the fire impact account. So that's been a godsend.
I had one viewer ask about fire inspections. Talk a little bit about just fire inspections in general.
You know, that's a very important part. Fires are going down, and I think part of that's the building code, but it's also a big part of it is our guys going out into the commercial aspects, and they go through annually. Our goal was to try to get through every commercial building annually, at least once a year. And we point out the fire code violations, and typically most people are pretty well compliant. Maybe an exit light or emergency light, not bad. And so they make those repairs, and it's very important for us. It allows us to get into a building. We see what that building's like, so if we had a fire, some of the more high hazard or life safety issues, maybe it's schools or it's a hospital or a nursing home, we go in and pre-plan those beforehand. So
that was my next question, was that if a new company comes in and says, we're gonna build this building, or where it might be, how are you guys involved from day one, or do you have to wait so long?
Well, actually, when they come in, the building department this is the point person for that. They have to submit for permits and plans. Plans review goes through the building department. We are required to get copies of the sprinkler systems and all that stuff. So we have comments.
Right.
So we're in there involved, making sure that we're going to have access to this building as it's getting built, prior to getting built. And then once it gets up to a certain point, we have to go in. For example, the sprinkler systems. We have to witness those along with the building department, make sure everything's right. Underground lines coming in, pressure test, we do that. Make sure that's okay for the fire line. Fire alarms and hood suppression systems and all that. People don't really realize we do. It's a big job.
Sure, yeah.
It's a very important job. It's a fun job because one, you know what's going on in the city. It really makes you a better firefighter. So.
And to those people who think, oh, the guy just walked in and nailed us because he doesn't like us. I mean,
no, that's not it. And you know, we always say we can give a fine, but we hardly ever do. And we've got some accounts that are maybe out 5 or 6 months, and we go back every 3 weeks and say, hey, have you got anything done? If they after 6 months or so, then we try to.
The ultimate goal is safety.
Sure.
And I think we're very pro-business. I mean, his leadership has proven that, but it's safety, right? I mean, if a public place people can go into, and we just want to make sure we avoid those tragedies, right?
I know it's Salvation Army. He comes in and does his stuff, and this is why we're doing it. And okay, that's good. Write it up and let us know what we need to do.
Yeah, we try to educate when we go in and
that's what, and I think that's the key to a lot of things. People just don't. Well, they see that. How much is it? We talked about a medic being about $250,000. What does a fire truck cost?
The last engine we purchased was in 2013, and it was $480,000.
Wow.
Without tools.
Without tools.
Without tools.
Without tools. So it's closer to $500,000 now. The aerial tower that we have, we paid $800,000 minus tools. We added another $50,000 in 2007, and I would say it's probably $1.2 million now to buy it brand new. Terribly expensive.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is.
Terribly.
We just have a few minutes left, and we appreciate you guys coming on. Just in general, if people have questions, can they just come and talk to you guys or call you? Or, I mean, just...
now that Captain Watts is in charge of EMS, we have a link on our website, we have a link on our Facebook that they can contact him if they have a medic question.
Is the Facebook through the city, or is it through the fire? Is it
it's official. It's the Lancaster Fire Department Facebook.
Okay.
Just search Lancaster Fire Department, and there it is.
Okay.
They're always welcome to call us. They can stop in and talk to someone like the captain or myself. We're always willing to talk. But it's kind of interesting. He's doing a fantastic job as our PIO, which I don't know if we mentioned this or not, our Public Information Officer. And a couple weeks ago, we had the axle that came off that trailer, remember?
Yes.
On the top of Main Hill?
Yes.
And he put that on our Facebook. How many views did you have?
At the end, it was like about 290,000 views.
290,000 views.
The only thing came close to that is when I posted about the grandstand fire at the fairgrounds.
What, by the way, has anything happened with that?
No, it's still in the police. They're investigating and things. But the key to the Public Information Officer, and he mentioned this as well to me the other day, is that it allows us to get ahead of the story and actually get out the accurate information. Because with what we have live CAD, where people can see the run, and they're going to speculate if they don't have no information. So if it's something big, we ask our command staff to get a hold of him so he can put this out there within the parameters we set forth and tell the public what's going on. and it's incredible how it's growing.
Oh, yeah.
That's
So
fantastic.
it's Lanc.
Yeah.
What is the Facebook account?
Lancaster Fire Department. If you search that, it'll come right up.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's neat. That's it. And that's been up for a while.
I've been working at it for maybe 2 years
Mhm.
or whatever,
Okay.
yeah, but it takes time, you know, to build that, but it's doing good. I think we probably have close to 4,000 likes or follows
Yeah.
or whatever.
That's neat.
There's
That's-
decent around
that's
here,
neat.
but I'd like to make it bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, my goal is to notify people, like the chief said, if we have an auto accident that's shutting a road down, be responsive enough
Right.
to put that on there to please avoid this area, to help people as they
And
travel.
that's a great
you know?
idea.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
because usually people share that.
Yep, they do, yeah.
So, just real quick, Super Bowl time, favorites?
I'm not a football person. I'm not even a sport. You know, I used to when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Loved to watch the Celtics and Larry Bird and those guys.
Yep.
I never.
Well,
I got
sure.
nothing. Go ahead, Derek.
Eagles.
Eagles?
Right, yeah,
So
I'm
is
tired
there
of the other ones.
is there a friendly bed in the fire department that somebody's cooking dinner of?
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not a bad man, I don't think he is, but I'm sure there is.
Yeah, so you're going with the Eagles.
I am. I think it's their
So
time.
we're giving you the Patriots.
If I were a betting man, I would say the rookie is going to be cooking that day. Just guessing.
Right. KJ and Dave, we appreciate you guys coming in and spending time with us. We'll get you back in for
Okay,
October for
Yeah, absolutely.
safety. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. And remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.